What is Operation Warp Speed? Operation Warp Speed is pretty much this operation that the US government has put in place where they are already manufacturing in advance the 4 or 5 vaccine candidates that they've put their trust and faith in. So, the ones that you hear of, the Moderna one, the Johnson one. So the hope is that they already started producing it. So once these phase 3 trial results come in, if they happen to be good and everything is okay and you get the go ahead, then you don't have to start worrying about manufacturing these and the logistics of the distribution. So this Operation Warp Speed is pretty much in place, which will of course most likely lead to a lot of waste in terms financial waste. But I mean, in this world where we waste money on absolutely everything and anything, I don't think that's a big concern. So technically speaking, a lot of these vaccines that will be manufactured, they're probably going to have to be chucked away. So that's what Operation Warp Speed is. And NPR just had a small story, which is that apparently the money, Operation Warp Speed, and by the US government, they've given $6 billion already to some of these vaccine candidates, but they're going through intermediary non-governmental organizations. So this was reported that Operation Warp Speed's funding has been routed through an intermediary non-governmental firm, therefore avoiding the usual requirements for regulatory oversight and transparency that accompany federal contracting, as well as many public records request requirements. So I'm not too sure why they're doing that. Apparently the sum here is $6 billion. So $6 billion has been given to these 4 or 5 big pharmaceutical companies that are leading the vaccine quest in the United States. So I'm guessing more money, I was thinking, is probably given through other channels. But this was just a little update, and you rarely hear about Operation Warp Speed in the news. So it was more that it caught my attention that, okay, now there's some news on it, because it's not talked about, and I don't know why. Even during the elections, during elections, Trump said that vaccines will be ready in a few weeks, which is a total lie. We'll talk about that later. But I'm surprised that they don't talk about this Operation Warp Speed. It sounds like it doesn't sound so crazy to me. It's not a bad thing, and most countries are carrying out similar things, and it's good for Trump. He can be like, I have everything, the infrastructure in place. I'm just waiting for the right results to come in and for us to get the go ahead, and then we'll have these vaccines ready. But I still don't know why they don't talk about this. So then my second vaccine story is that European regulators are set to start an accelerated review of the Covid-19 vaccine frontrunner from the University of Oxford and AstraZeneca, the company. So the trial that was actually stopped for about a week because of one of the participants developed a very severe spine-related adverse effect, which has resumed ever since. There are trials all over the world except in the US. They have still yet to get the go-ahead from the FDA. So it's unclear what that reason is. It could be political, because at the end of the day, this vaccine, the credits will go to the British and to Oxford. So maybe it's not that big of a priority for them, and they have other candidates. But the Europeans want to, they want to start the review and speed up that. So that could be some concern for people who wonder, whether the correct steps are being taken to make sure that the vaccines will not be dangerous. Now, Russia, they're continuing with their trial from their vaccine that was the first to be registered, and they've also developed a second vaccine that has gone through the early stages of human trial. So it's already been given to more than a dozen people. So the Russians also have a second vaccine coming in. I thought they were going to put all their eggs in one basket, and if the trials don't go well with this vaccine, just change it a bit and continue the trials. But I think they're developing a second candidate. And now the last update that I have, it's kind of scary a little bit. So CNBC did a little bit of investigative reporting, and they talked to some of the participants who are part of the Moderna vaccine trial. And one of them actually came out and gave his name and everything, but 4 other ones remain anonymous. And they all talked about the side effects that they had from this. So this 4 or 5 people, so who knows? So some people might have had 0 side effects, but the ones that seem to be common is that for at least 12 to 24 hours, they felt pretty crappy. Headaches were very common, and waking up in the middle of the night and shivering and shaking is very common, having to take headache pills for migraine. And apparently it's the second. So the Moderna one apparently comes with 2 doses, and it's apparently the second dose. And the person who is not anonymous in the story, he recommends either him or one of them is anonymous. He recommends to take the next day off from work. So it's like if you're getting vaccinated, make sure to take the next day off. But yeah, because apparently one of the people who was reporting this story, he even chipped his tooth because he was shaking so much when he woke up after the second dosage in the middle of the night. But apparently after 12 to 24 hours, they've all felt okay. So I mean, of course, the adverse effects for at least these 4 or 5 people who have come forward have been nothing like the one where they had to stop the Oxford vaccine trial. But I think it shows that, because when you take vaccines, they always say that, some you don't even feel anything that day, some have like a longer impact on you. But this seems like so far we're on the road that when there is a vaccine, at least the Moderna one, a lot of people are going to feel, some relatively serious adverse effects during the first day of of receiving the second dose. So we'll put the link to the article below if everybody wants to read their accounts themselves. They're a bit scary. The person who came out, the person who didn't stay anonymous, he said that okay, listen, I did experience these for half a day, but I think that it's worth it. So that was his takeaway.
No,
But yeah,
that
those are my
the
vaccine
last
updates.
was
And then I have a little bit more of a vaccine update, but I'm going to leave that for our US selection related story. So I wanted to throw it back to you now, unless you had anything you wanted to add or any questions, for you to give us a.
no.
Uh,
I would just say that I guess the reason why probably they don't talk about it in elections so much is because it's not as eye grabbing, like to talk about that we have the infrastructure ready and all that. You know what I
it
mean?
doesn't. No, it sounds reassuring to me, especially from Trump, because Trump can be like, let's say if a week before the elections, the vaccine gets the go ahead, he can be like, hey, and as I've been saying with Operation Warp Speed, we've been thinking ahead, and we're ready to start distributing these
Uh,
vaccines at a
He kind
large
of
scale.
he kind of already saying that. I mean, we get to
Yeah,
the debate later on, but even in the debate, there was a segment that, yeah, that Chris Wallace was saying, you're head of blah blah, and head of blah blah says that it won't be ready by then,
yeah,
but you're basically saying it will be.
yeah,
Well, we'll get into
yeah. We'll
it, but
get to that.